Hello and welcome to the Cissp Prep Exam International Seminar presented by Megamind Training Institute. I'll be your host and instructor, Adrian Michaelunas, to give you a good idea of what it will take to become certified. What is the Cissp certification and what you need to in order to become certified? What are the course objectives, the schedule, study tips, and additional references and resources? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Adrian Michaelunas. I'm an expert in security. I've been about more than 30 years in IT, information technology, and about 20 years in security. So I'm a CISSP myself. I'm a CISA, Linux professional, deal a lot with open source. That's one of my specialties. Currently, we have in this session attendees from all over the world. I won't be able to read all the countries, but as a sampling, we have people from Canada, India, Kuwait, Pakistan, Poland, Thailand, Venezuela, United States, and the United Kingdom. So they introduce a little bit about myself and a little bit of the students that we have in this session. In general, when we do this, any type of webinar, we set up a series of ground rules because we want this to be interactive. This is not going to be a monologue. We want to make sure that you ask questions. If you don't ask questions, I'll be asking the questions because I want to make sure you learn, right? And again, the most important thing is listen so you can learn, so that you can refresh and recharge. And we always start and end on time because that way we respect each other's timing, all right? So normally when we have this weekend review sessions, we start around 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is about 10 a.m. on the East Coast, right? We have a 15-minute break at 10:30. This is a little off because actually it's Eastern time. Then we have 30 minutes for lunch and then another 15-minute break mid-afternoon. And then we adjourn at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a few more extra minutes for additional questions and answers you may have. So that's for the review session, not for today's session. So let's start with the introduction. What is the International ISC Square or International Consortium? It's an organization dedicated to improving security worldwide. So this was the first and main certification, but they offer more than 5 at the moment, and they're coming up with new certifications. And those books, okay, they're in the 4th edition, the official one, the official guide. There are additional study materials, and I always encourage students to look around if you can go to a local bookstore or check online where there's Amazon or your favorite Barnes & Noble, whichever happens to be your preferred bookstore, and compare, look at reviews. For this type of class, we use the official material from ISC Square. But I always encourage, there are applications that you can use on a tablet, like flashcards and things like that, which they bring value to you, again, because everybody has different background and also everybody has a slightly different way of learning. Some people are more auditory or other people are more visual. So, I just want to give you options. So, even though we use officially the guy from ISC Square, there are, I don't want to tell you that, no, don't study from anything else, okay? Now, I will tell you, don't study from anything else if that's confusing you. But if it's bringing value and it's explaining, but that's why you also get additional handouts as part of the course, okay? And the most important thing and most valuable are the review questions, because really you're here to learn about how to pass the exam. And we can talk all the theory that you want, but until you start practicing those questions and answers, that's when it's kind of learning how to ride the bicycle. It takes a little wobbling at the beginning, but eventually you will get it. And practice makes it perfect. We're going to show you the patterns. There are certain patterns. There's basically like a handful of different type of questions that you're going to deal with. There's some questions that have negative words, qualifier words. So again, we're going to review those during the exam. All right, so we're going to have different type of processing the questions so you can become familiar and become comfortable with the process. Why would you want to become certified? A lot of people have different motivation. So right now, currently, as of 2016, there is more than 100,000 professionals that have the certification currently. But again, currently in 2016, we have more than 100,000 professionals throughout the world. All right. And some of them, a good third, have more than one certification. The 90% of the certified professionals, they agree that earning the CSSP is a great career move. Here I have some references, even in the Wikipedia, you have, is on the top 10 certifications that earn you the most amount of money. So again, if you're looking to improve your career, if you're in networking or if you're in security already, all right, or even management of network, of management of security, this will be a career boost. In some organizations, you get a salary bump. You get an extra bonus, okay, besides paying for the exam, like in most organizations do. You will get a little bump on salary as well. All right. So overall, I mean, I'm going to take two different approaches. In the private sector, okay, in US dollars, all right, yeah, here is a couple of links, okay, that you can check depending of the level of experience. But we're talking about between $85,000 to $120,000, depending of how many years of experience you have, all right? And it depends in what country of the world you are. I mean, even though we say US dollars, that's the currency, but I think people that work in Australia are going to earn different than people that are in Zimbabwe, okay, from A to Z. So, or in Argentina, okay, and New Zealand, okay. So there depends on where you work because of cost of living, right? So just a couple of little references there for you to check. Now, if you work for the government, and I happen to work, I live very close, about 15 minutes from Washington, D.C. So, and actually from the Pentagon, I'm about 20 minutes from the Department of Defense headquarters, all right? And they have anybody, they made a rule back in a few years ago, they called 8570, anybody working with what they call information assurance, basically information security, but it's more at the certification and accreditation level, right? Has to be, there's a strong push for that person to be certified. In the first few years, they were very, very lenient, but lately it's more than 90% of the people. If they hire somebody, that person has to be pursuing the certification. And there's a link in the bottom that has been updated, okay? So it's still, CISSP is in the top 3 certifications to have in the 5 levels that's of security. So if you have CISSP, you can work at different levels, from a managerial level to an information security analyst level, right? But it's becoming a required certification in the federal government for people working in security or information assurance, as they call it, even though that's more DoD parlance, okay? Just to let you know. Couple of little disclaimers, okay? This short presentation is just an introduction to the course if you decide to sign up and continue forward with myself or other similar instructors that Megamind has, so you can become more proficient and be prepared to take the CISSP exam. Today's presentation is not a security engineering 101. We're not going to cover all the basics of security. This is just an introduction to the exam. So it's not even a basic course, okay? Now, also for the review courses, when you take the course, again, it's going to be a very brief review. We're going to focus more on the objectives of the exam for that domain. There are 8 domains, which we'll see coming up in the next slide or so. And the idea is you will have to have that knowledge beforehand. We're going to have a kind of a quick review. If somebody has a question or two, we're going to, again, address that. But it's not going to be a review session of a couple of hours because, as you'll see, the schedules are pretty tight, all right? So it's also not going to be an advanced security course in that we're going to talk at the high level and keep it that way. So these are the 8 domains. We're in slide 14. And in these 2 intensive days, we're gonna review each domain every hour and a half or about 90 minutes. So we're going to do 4 domains per day if you want to do the math. Okay, that's why we have the little line in the middle. All right. So the first day we start with security and risk management, because that's really the most important driving factor today. In the old days, we used to focus more about firewalls or antivirus or things that we can purchase right away. Now we have to say, look, there's so many things in security. You have ransomware, you have all kind of malicious stuff. How about if we focus on, protecting our resources? Okay, so the only way you can protect your resources is by managing this risk. Okay, and that's really what the new forms of security worry about: reducing risk. You can never get rid of it totally 100%, but we can reduce it, okay? Or we can transfer it via an insurance policy or other mechanisms. Then we move into asset security. What are we really trying to protect? See, that kind of goes hand in hand with risk. The risk is about, what will happen to an asset, okay? And an asset could be, if you work for Coca-Cola, it could be the secret formula, okay? Or if you work for Apple, what's the iPhone 7 going to have? So that's the intellectual property. But it could also be some information, if you work for the Department of Defense, that is classified or secret or top secret. You don't want that information leak out to the public, okay? It will be very embarrassing, or some agents or soldiers can die because of that information, okay, escaping to the public or the enemy, right? Then we're going to move into security engineering, where we cover, what are the best practices? What are the things that you should not do in any type of secure environment? Okay, that covers lightly about software development, which is one of the last domains. But this deal more at the CPU, motherboard, laptops. How do we protect an operating system basically from all forms of malicious manipulation? Then we'll move on to domain number 4, communication and network security, which is one of the heavy domains, okay, because we cover everything from the early 80s about TCP/IP, which actually came in the 70s, but so we have a lot of protocols, a lot of layers, and a lot of things to worry about in communications and telecommunications per se. On the second day, we'll tackle identity and access management. Very, very important nowadays. I mean, if you have a smart card that will give you access, or if you have a user ID password, okay, so one thing is to identify. We're also going to cover biometrics, okay, all the things that are, again, important for your identity. And what are the mechanisms that not only give you grant you access, but they also monitor when something goes wrong? What will happen if somebody does get in? How do we block them, or how do we monitor? How do we alert? Okay, so those are the things you deal with access management. Just because somebody says they are good, okay, we are secure, we don't take their word. We need to basically assess and reassess, and we do that with testing. We have scanning tools, and we have different ways. Again, if you put your auditor hat, you will go in and visit a facility and say, I want to see the logs, I want to see your scans, or you will also do your scans yourselves, okay? So again, that's covered in the security assessment and testing, okay, which is a fun chapter, all right? Next, we'll move to domain number 7, security operations, where we talk about the day-to-day operations of a data center, okay? Nowadays, we have a lot more virtualization, so we have less and less blinking lights, but the operations is the part of the IT machinery that keeps the lights on, it keeps your servers going, okay? There are backup tapes going in the background, in and out, okay? Keeping your database servers going, replacing hard drives, okay? Make sure you have enough bandwidth. What if there is an intruder, okay? We need to deal with an incident, okay? So the incident response is included in the security operations as well, all right? And last but not least, okay, the 8th domain deals with software development security, which, a lot of people forget about that. I mean, most software houses are focusing on getting the software out of the door. All right, so sometimes they have very loose, promiscuous permissions, as we call them. Okay, so the security needs to be tightened in the software. Okay, sometimes they have hard-coded passwords, which again, what year? We're in 2016. I mean, that was okay 30 years ago, but I won't tell you what programs, but I still find hard-coded passwords in some programs even today, just like you see them in some websites. All right, so again, these are the 8 domains. There is a nice publication, I'll mention that, that you can download from free from ISC Square, that it gives you, and this is what we're going to use in the review. You should be familiar with this little publication from the ISC. It used to be called the Candidate Information Bulletin, okay? But it's available if you want to prepare for the exam. It gives you the goals, and this is at the high level, All right, so here is the URL that I was just mentioning, the CISSP exam requirements, how to certify. And right there, you get a little booklet that is about 40, 50 pages long. And that gives you domain by domain, what are the major high-level objectives for each of those. Now, normally, to take the exam, CISSP requires you to have at least 5 years of paid work experience in 2 of the 8 domains, all right? Or at least 4 years experience plus a college degree. So they give you 1 year off, all right? Now, if you don't meet any of those criteria, you can still take the exam and you'll become an associate CISSP. Until you get your 5 years, you will not become a full CISSP. But you can still take the exam. So let's say you're a young college person and boom, you want to take the exam because you're very confident, even though you may have 2 years or 3. So you become an associate CISSP. You still pay the same fees, you still take the same exam, but you're not a full CISSP until you get your 5 years of experience, all right? So again, to pass the exam, we're going to see that in the next slide, you will need at least 700 points, all right? Now, in order to schedule, you need to, if you look at the URL at the bottom, it's called the view, okay? That's one of the centers where we take the exam. That's coming up in another slide as well. So you create an account for free and you schedule the exam. The nice thing about CISSP is not tied to a yearly cycle. Other certifications, they say, oh, it's once a month, 4 times a year, etc., etc. CISSP, you can take your exam anytime you're ready. Let's put it this way. Now, you can also reschedule. Stuff happens, right? And there is a wedding. I mean, you were not planning, or well, probably you're planning for it. But let's say that you get there is a funeral or some family event, okay, that you have to change, okay. Again, the view will let you change. There's going to be a small fee to change that. If you need to cancel, you will lose your money. So it's not a good idea. It's always a good idea to postpone. I think you can push it up to 6 months or so, but you can check that in the view person view website that will give you all the details. But just to let you know, because sometimes people kind of they get ready and say, oh, I'm taking the exam on Monday, and then it's Sunday, it's like, I'm not ready. So they can push it 1 week or 2. Don't go too chicken and push it 2 months, but I understand stuff happens. All right, now the exam, as I was mentioning, it's almost $600, so it's not pocket change. So you may ask your employer. Usually they pay for it. All right. We still, even with the new 8 domains, we still have 250 questions, of which 25 are for research purposes. All right. So meaning that you only get points for 225. Remember, that will add up to 700 points. Right. They have about 10,000 questions in their database and they get randomized. So even if there's another person sitting next to you, they're going to get entirely 250 different questions than yours, right? Now, most of the questions are multiple choice and usually about 4 or 5 choices. So you're going to say A, B, C, or D, right? Now, normally, if you have the little radio button, the run button, it's only 1 choice, okay? When you get the little square box, all right, that means you can pick, and it will tell you in the question, select more than 1, all right? So, or answer, select all that apply, right? Sometimes it's tricky because there might be a question that says A, B, C, and D. So, again, those are the type of things that we'll cover in the exam review class, right? And as I mentioned earlier, you need about 700 points or greater. Now, when you get your results, it will say pass or fail. You don't get 750, 800, 999. Okay, they don't want to have this bragging competition between professionals. So you pass or don't pass. That's it. Now, you do have 6 hours maximum. So it's an endurance test. I always tell people, pace yourselves. I mean, imagine you have 250 questions. If you take 1 minute per question, that's about 250 minutes, all right? So if you do the math, it's about 4 hours and change. Most of my students, they take 2 to 3 hours, roughly, okay? It's very important to get good night rest, okay, the night before. You can bring candy, energy bars, all drinks. Normally, because you're in front of the computer, they will not let you eat or drink at the computer itself. You can take breaks. They are in a monitor location. The same thing when you go to take a bio break, okay, to go to the restroom or washroom, you will need to leave anything, any paperwork or anything like that. Also, in these places, you're not allowed to bring your cell phone or any way that will let you communicate with the outside world. Okay, if you have any medication, you will tell the person that will give you this information. All right, but other than that, you won't see any. You will not be allowed to enter any information. Basically, they want to limit the possibility of cheating. Okay, so it's closed book. Okay, and you will find out in most centers they will still mail you the results. Some of my students told me that in one of their centers, and you can also inquire View if Pearls from View if you can know the results right away. Okay, normally because they do some recomputation. They want to analyze if you didn't have any help from the outside world. They don't want to give you the false hope. They say, hey, you passed, and then they find something, they made a mistake, and they want to change their minds, all right? So keep that in mind. So after passing the exam, I mentioned earlier, you will subscribe to the Code of Ethics. You submit the form that will be endorsed by one of your coworkers or supervisor, and maintain your CISSP certification. All right. So that's done in a yearly basis. We'll cover that in the next slide. All right. So what we call CPEs, continuing professional education. So just because you passed, that doesn't mean you can sit back and relax. In a way, yes, you can because you passed the exam. Congratulations. But the IC Square, they want you to stay up to date. Don't sit back and relax, okay? So you need to collect every 3 years about 120 credits. That means you have to take courses or give presentations as well, okay? So that works both ways. You can go to a trade show, you go to a computer security conference, okay? And for every hour of training, you get about 1 hour of CPEs, right? That's how it works. So here are some sample activities. I mean, you can take some even college courses, okay? You can go to a vendor seminar, okay? You can also provide training, could be to some coworkers or for some customers, okay? Publishing articles is also good, makes you look good, makes your company look good, and if you sell those, makes you good in your wallet too, right? You can also qualify self-study, again, within certain caveats, all right? And you can also volunteer. You can become an officer in a local chapter from ISC Square, participate in other organizations' chapters as well. I mean, ISC Square is not very exclusive, like this is a private club. So if you work in ISACA or ISA or other organizations, they will give you credit for that, right? So at least 20 credits have to be posted each year. In the early days, I'm talking about 10 years ago, a lot of people got lazy and they were, only when the 3 years were up, they will start putting all the credits. And then they were losing credits and it was kind of rushing. So now IC Square said, no, let's do this every year, 20 credits minimum. And you have to pay your 85 yearly dues. Again, we call it AMF for annual maintenance fee. So keep that in mind. Okay, normally again, your employer will pay for that. Just to give you a quick overview of what we'll have with the review agenda. So for each domain, we'll take about 10-15 minutes. Again, we can't go too far of the core concepts, okay? What is required from that domain? What are the most important things, all right? Because let's say we talk about software engineering, okay, or software development. And let's say you're not a programmer. So when I tell you, well, there are some differences between Java and JavaScript, you're going to say, I have no clue. All right. So again, we're not going to get into programming, but what is ISC Square expecting you to know for the exam? All right. Well, Java is a compiled language and JavaScript is an interpreted language. It will run usually on the browser. It has very little security for that reason. Okay. Anybody can tamper with JavaScript. It's very easy to see the language and the results, okay? So at least that's the kind of things that you need to know for the exam. Then we'll practice what we call knowledge statements, all right? Things, again, which are the high level, what are the important, kind of like if you look at the table of contents of a book, you see, oh, I need to know about scripting, okay, interpreted languages, compiled languages, and so forth. All right, about different type of storage, right, in memory. So, and then the most important thing, that's where we spend about 80% of the time per domain, is with the sample questions and review questions. So we know, so you will know what to expect. All right. Then again, if we're at the end of the domains, okay, we'll have an exam review, and then any final thoughts and suggestions you may have, again, per domain itself and how to improve the course, because we run this course several times per year, so we want to have a way to improve the course as well. Now, last year in 2015, there was a change. Every 3 to 5 years, the ISC Square reviews the material for the CISSP examination. So in April 2015, there were some changes. They added these topics, that's why we have them here, how to handle third-party risk management. Basically, if you have contracts with others, it could be a security company, the people that provide the bodyguards, not bodyguards, the guards, sorry, the guards in the front of the building, okay, or inside the building, or if you have companies that take care of the trash, or they do the disposal, secure disposal. So those are what we call third parties, okay? It could be people that manage your data center, So BYOD, bring your own device, okay? What are the risks, okay? This very hot topic right now in the federal government. Can I bring my own tablet or phone to work? Well, how many people like to carry 2 or 3 phones, okay? Not me, okay? But so will your employer or the government or the federal government, will they give you another gadget? So you're going to have to carry, 2 or 3 of those. So many people say, I like to bring my own phone, and if I make a call, I'll charge you, or work something out, right? But many companies, they have this, or bring your own laptop if you say, oh, I'm a Mac fan, and they only give me Windows, or the other way around. So bring your own device. Then there's another interesting acronym here called Internet of Things, IoT for short, okay, which is the next big, many people have, could be a little gadget to track their health, okay, how many steps they walk per day, and that is connected via Bluetooth. You also have security cameras and other devices, other gadgets at home, in the car, around the office. And those are what we call data points, okay? They're collecting data. And some of them are not very secure, all right? So that's why ISC Square wants to bring that into the umbrella. Then we also have software-defined networks and cloud identity services. Again, those are hot new topics. So they basically added overall about 4% more to the content, just to keep that in mind, right? Now, besides the new material, they also added, instead of having all multiple choice questions, which can be a bit boring, they added a bit more different formats, okay? And again, the majority, 80 to 90%, is still going to be multiple choice. but they added something new, okay? So one of them called scenario, another one called drag and drop, and the third one is called hotbox. All right, so let's go over real quick what they mean. So the scenario, rather than have you read a long paragraph, or it's almost like a mini chapter, and then repeat it again, they're gonna show you a screen that says this is a scenario where you're gonna answer a few questions about it. So they give you like a little mini chapter, so you have to read and memorize. By the way, you're always allowed to have a little notepad, blank notepad, so you can write in case you have a little bit short memory. And basically, they give you a description, like there's a factory, or there's an office building, or there's a government facility, and it has this, this, and this, okay, blah, blah, blah. So they give you a little description of what the scenario is, and then they ask questions, okay? Here it says, so they will ask at least 3 questions, okay, based on that scenario. So that in the software that they use, they basically group, okay, this is scenario based, so they're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5, all right? So again, some of the tactics that we use, read the question first. Most people just go real fast. No, slow down. You got to really, really digest and analyze, and look for what we call, here's this, consider operational issues, okay, or trade-offs. Again, those are some of the tricks that we're gonna go over in the actual course, how to make sure you understand or process this better, all right, and become much better at this, handling the scenario questions. In the second, we use what we call drag and drop, and you see here there's a question, is which algorithms below are examples of symmetric cryptography? So you have to drag and drop. Okay, so you pick 2 or 3 from the list and drag them into the little box on the right. So that's really what the challenge here is. So rather than using multiple, so it just gives you a little variation. It's basically because they came up with better, easier way to test it. It breaks the monotony. Even though they could have said yes, no, like that, they decided to give this as a better way to break the monotony of A, B, C, D, and things like that. So that's another. And the third and final new addition is what we call hotspot. Okay, you will have to click in a location on the screen. Here they have a diagram of where is your PKI to secure. Click on the location of the registration authority, which if I recall is right there in the smack in the center. All right. So if you click on the center, we'll say, yes, you pass. Basically, you get, well, it won't tell you. It will be nice, right? Okay, but that means that's your answer. You will click on submit, and that will be your answer. But you have to click on one of the locations on the screen, right? So that's it. That gives you an idea of the type of exam questions. Again, you get more of those in the review. Now, don't be confused. There's a lot of sites out there, and they try to scare you by giving you very low scores, all right? So for that reason, a lot of people get discouraged. And let's face it, a lot of people don't pass, okay? Many of our students, sometimes when they come for help, they say, oh, I've already tried 2 or 3 times. Okay, so we'll give them a remediation program and they improve. Okay, we give them some online materials so they can start practicing and they improve as well, right? So we have, our main seller right now. I mean, we do have other CISSP courses, but the ones most people say, because the time, and this is over a weekend, you have a live exam prep course. So it's not just a quick review of domains, but a lot of practice. They gives you the confidence, give you the boost, okay? So we start with, this is some of the things that we include with our course, is the glossary, okay, which again, most people discard it, but again, we have some flashcards as well for that. But it's very important because if you don't know the words that are going to be in some of the questions, okay, how can you make some sense out of that? So it's very important that you understand the basics, the basic vocabulary of security, and specifically the ones that IC Square wants you to know for CISSP. Also, after you've taken the class, okay, the exam prep class, the recorded version is going to be available so you can play it back as many times as you need. So that's going to be for you to keep, all right? The actual slides where you have the standard, the questions and answers that you will review, additional questions in case you want, again, because of your motivation. We also have several pages of the best study tips available from years of having taught. I've been CISSP from early, so it's been 15 years since I've been a CISSP, so I'm always adding more and more, all right? Also, again, some additional steps required for taking the exam. And you can also ask me questions. I'll be available, okay, via email. Okay, we can set up also additional conversation, okay, a little bit of coaching. I've done that in the past, one-on-one over to our small groups, all right? And again, you will have access to the recording, as I mentioned. You will get a certificate of completion, okay, which is good to display in your office or at home. And again, Megamind, the idea here is will help you to become successful in preparation, all right? So we have, let me see, we get also, again, the registration page is here. It might be available also by our video link. We normally offer a very good discount. This is a very, very good value. I mean, if you register ahead of time, you get, it's almost 20% off. You get it for $350 instead of $495. If you cannot make it available online to the live training, we offer another option, which is to subscribe into the on-demand pre-recorded webinar. So if you can't make it, okay, you receive the same handouts as the live training, and you can attend anywhere. Okay, this is up to you, your flexibility. Anywhere you have time. Sometimes we have different time zones. We have many students from Saudi Arabia, Australia, so they totally different time zones in the UK. So if it's more convenient, you can purchase as a form of subscription. And again, we have subscriptions that run for 3, 6, or 12 months. So depending on how much time you need to prepare. And this is the registration, a link right at the bottom of the screen. And we're looking forward to have you as in our class. And Megamind Training likes to become your source for CISSP prep training. I'd like to open for questions. We're going to close this session